All right, so we'll go ahead and get started since we're a few minutes after our time. So welcome to Quantum Field Medicine. And we're so grateful, Julie and I are so grateful that you're here in this space. And we'll be moving through both an embodied experience today because the field is an experience. We're all co-creating it here in this moment. And of course, deeper learnings around what the field is, the field itself and diving into those layers and those details. So before we really jump in and get started, let's connect together in this field. It's a co-creation. And as we sit in this moment, we have this opportunity to embody presence, coherence, and what I call equanimity. So it's that balanced embodied state, which is the state where we're most creative, we're most open, we're most able to receive source and really objective wisdom that's meant to flow through us. So wherever you are, just allow yourself to begin breathing into your lower belly. And you can allow your eyes to close if that feels comfortable. If not, you can keep them open. And without forcing, without effort, begin to inhale through the nostrils, feeling the coolness of the air, receiving your breath, and softening the belly, the mid to lower belly as you inhale. Expanding the belly with the inhale and relaxing and releasing with the exhale. So in and out of the nostrils. Dropping your energy into your pelvic bowl, into the lower belly. And how we do that is we dive our awareness down into the foundation, the root, the tailbone, the hips, lower abdomen. And just notice the texture of your breath. Notice if there's any constriction. Set the intention to relax and release, to receive. Now dropping your energy into the floor, your feet, the soles of your feet, and then into the earth. The crown of the head is open. Base of the body is grounded. Heart soften. And taking a couple more deep, slow breaths here. If there's an intention that has guided you into our session today, you can connect with that. Placing that in your heart energy. Whenever you're ready, taking the time you need, slowly coming back to our space. All right, now that we're all grounded and relaxed together, gonna pitch it over to you, Julie. We're gonna share just a short micro version of our journey and what has guided us into this work together. And there are a lot of ways that Julie and I are co-creating and co-weaving our work together. And so we want to give some of that background, and then we'll dive into um, quantum field medicine. Yeah.
Thank you, Lena. Welcome, everybody. It's so great to see everybody's faces and feel your energy in the field here. So thank you for joining us. My background, just briefly, I have about 13 years experience working with adults with severe and persistent mental illness. I worked 8 years for Big Pharma, and I've spent the last 12 years building quantum energy science in the Pyramid Cities after going through my own healing journey. In a summary, I'm a 2-time rape survivor, battled addiction, and 12 years ago was really my forefront into my mission pathway and really understanding what my purpose here was. That came through sobriety, that came through working with shamanic medicine, plant medicine, and really stepping into the field of energy, working with Master Reiki teachers and practitioners, and really understanding the importance of energy. Everything is energy around us. And so, I spent the last 12 years after being shown visions of what I was supposed to be working on, researching technologies around the world, going and experiencing those, looking at the science behind them, and really intuitively feeling into kind of the best of the best protocols and technologies that are effective, that are verifiable in the work that we're doing, and really working to bring that forward because it's been very suppressed here, as we know. And so it's been a very beautiful experience learning, and it's constant learning because it is the quantum field. It's constantly shifting, it's constantly moving. I ran a practice in Miami, a healing clinic in Miami for about 8 months. And then I moved to Costa Rica and worked with some longevity wellness clinics. And I work right now primarily with one-on-one remote clients. I do work with some people in person, and I travel around a lot. I consult for various clinics, facilities, practitioners, working with the technologies, working with the field, and really helping them to understand how to best work with clients on a non-linear level, because healing is not linear. And so I was blessed enough to be introduced to Lena about a year ago. And, our medicines really complement each other. They work hand in hand. Stepping into the technology field, first was the energy field. It was working with shamanic practices and energy clearing and energy healing. That led me into the technology side. And that technology side led me into developing some of my own technologies, really understanding what works, what the technologies need to carry and hold, and how they need to be implemented. And so bringing those technologies forward. And so Lena and I are very excited. We're bringing together a lot of beautiful projects that we will share more with you, as we go through these sessions. But that's a little background about myself, and I'll pass it back to Lena so she can share her magic medicine.
Awesome. Thank you, Julie. Yeah, there's no coincidences when we connect with those on the path. And I know those here know what I mean when I say that. So yeah, in a nutshell, so I really started more in the psychotherapy realm as a licensed therapist. And, as a young child, I always knew I was meant to help people. I also grew up in a contemplative home. So my mom was from Vietnam, and she was Buddhist, and my dad's Christian. And so there's really interesting East and West intersection. And that theme really ran through all of the different chapters and journeys in my life. And so, as I journeyed down my path of creating a private practice, psychotherapy practice, and then began weaving in more of these energetic practices, these Eastern practices, I realized, wow, in terms of clients getting better, humans healing truly at the root, it is an embodied process. It is, yes, bottom up and top down. We're working with the subconscious mind, we're working with the energy fields. And on my own path of awakening, I really broke open through the experiences of grief. My mom passed very suddenly at the age of 57. And that was my first primary awakening experience. And then that grief guided me into deeper meditation, deeper spiritual practice, and eventually into plant medicine work. So working with earth medicines, plant medicines, and seeing, the truth of our body's capacity, our mind's capacity to heal and, dare I say, cure imbalances that exist within our psyche, within our bodies, diseases even. So my work is a weaver of worlds, if you will, medicine world with the energetic worlds, weaving, leadership with awakening, all of these aspects of how we can truly be of best service and impact to the world. And so now I'm the founder of LF Global Advisory House. I work with leaders and particularly female visionaries in order to support the creation of regenerative projects and businesses that are truly here to help heal the world. In addition to that, and this project is about to launch, but I'm the founder of The Source, which has really beautiful both domestic and global plans to create advanced vitality sanctuaries that are, again, based on regeneration. And a lot of that will include Julie's amazing technologies. So I'm coming from this from the psychology piece, from the human consciousness piece, from the embodiment of your soul's purpose piece, because that's truly, when we discover why we're here and how we're meant to serve, that coherence that we're here to create on the planet naturally arises from our thoughts, from our words, from our actions, from our businesses. So Julie and I are deeply grateful for each of you to answer the call to be here in this session. And so when I met Julie, I was like, because I've been getting the message about advanced technology, and here comes essentially the female version of Tesla, just so brilliant sitting in front of me and on this call. I'm like, wow, yes, this is the field bringing us together. This is the field helping to evolve and co-create what we're meant to share with the world. And again, we doing this work together is an amplification of energy that we could never create on our own. So, and even in this moment, together in this field, we are co-creating this field and this power and this energy together. So we'll be talking more about how that actually happens in terms of the quantum field interacting with human consciousness and how we can work with that in really specific ways. So more to flow there, but I'm going to pitch it back to you, Julie, to dive into what the field is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. So a little deeper dive just on my background and what I do. So I am the founder of Quantum Energy Science, the founder of Pyramid Cities, the Quantum Vault, and some of the advanced technologies that we've just launched forward, which is the bioregeneration mirror chamber and the cryogenic plasma vault. And I'm sharing this with you to share the medicine, the quantum field medicine, and what it really represents. This is the quantum field medicine, and we say the quantum sovereign field medicine because it is sovereign, and we'll dive into that in some of our other sessions. But, this is the convergence of vibrational science, biofield intelligence, scalar frequency transmissions, and multidimensional consciousness. And this is bringing us into a single living, self-updating healing architecture. I work with the morphogenetic field, the biofield, intrinsic data field analysis, and the fields themselves. And most people aren't familiar with what those are. So I'm going to talk just a little bit on what each of these just a little bit of a definition of what these are and how they came about. And then we'd love to kind of have a little talking point for anybody that would like to share, their experience with working with any of these fields, your experience as either a client or a practitioner, or not at all. And just we'd like to share a little bit more about that. So, the first talking point I want to give is about the morphogenetic field itself. So Rupert Sheldrake was a Cambridge-trained biochemist. In the 1980s, he came forward and proposed that every living system is organized not by genetics, but by an invisible intelligent field that he calls the morphogenetic field. This field precedes physical form and it continuously guides it. What he talks about in his studies, there were multiple scientists and researchers that did experiments with eggs. They did egg embryos. Excuse me. They did experiments with mice, and I'll share a little bit about what each of those were. So in the 20s and 30s, there were quite a few researchers around the world that were studying this field. One of the first experiments is they took an egg and they shook it, they scrambled it, and they wanted to see if there were any shifts in the actual output of the birth of, what came through in that egg. And it was shown that whether the egg was shaken, repeatedly, it did not affect the outcome of the egg. And so what he proposed is that the field is not generated by matter. The morphogenetic field actually shapes matter. DNA does not fully explain form. So when they did this scrambling, most of the organisms, they developed perfectly normally because the form is not stored in the cells, it is stored in the field around them. The field guides the cells back to the correct organization. So the blueprint is not material, it is field-based. So that's something for us to really look at when we're doing any type of healing work with ourselves or with clients. The other thing that he brought forward with that is that memory is stored in the field and not just the brain. So what that means is we call this morphic resonance, the principle that organizes systems at every scale. So atoms, molecules, cells, organisms, societies, these are all shaped by cumulative memory of all the previous similar systems that were transmitted through the morphogenetic field across space and time, all dimensions. And so they brought about this experimentation with rats. They had some rats in London and they had some rats in Tokyo. And this was over a series of multiple generations, 34 generations of the same species of rats, but in different areas of the world. And what they did is they trained a certain species of rats to learn their way through a water maze. And every generation that came after the generation before learned that maze quicker and faster, not because they saw the generation before them do it, because they didn't. It was already embedded within their field. And so every time, every generation of rat went through, they were faster and faster. And so they were able to show that that morphogenetic field, it continues on generationally. We talk about generational trauma. We all come in with a field of patterns that we don't even know that we came in with. And so expanding on this experiment with the rats, they trained these species of rats, different generations in London. And then they did similar experiments in Tokyo with the same species of rats. And the rats that had never even touched the maze were faster. So it was embedded in the field of that entire species. So the morphic resonance of every tissue, every organ, every biological system, it is an organizing, intelligent field. Disease begins at the morphic field distortion, long before it manifests in the tissue and in the blood and in symptom. It is a disimbalance in the field. And healing at the deepest level is morphic field restoration. So we are restoring the field and correcting all the physical and energetic reorganizations that need to happen. just kind of peeking at my notes here, so I make sure I cover everything here. The ancestral field, so this is something that I work with a lot, and I know that Lena does as well. When we work with lineage clearing, say within the Quantine Vault, we do a lot of lineage clearing. This is the morphogenetic field of the family. So we individually carry a morphogenetic field. Our family carries its morphogenetic field. The generation carries a field, and everybody that came before us. And we carry a piece of that field. Sacred sites are also another piece of this. So the pyramid grids, stone circles, ancient temples, these were specifically designed as morphic field amplifiers and stabilizers. So these geometric structures, they calibrate to the Earth's morphogenetic field to broadcast healing, coherence, and activation at the collective human field level. And one thing that is not in the textbooks that you're not going to find, because Sheldrick's morphic resonance, there's been, the Western medicine side does not want to dive into that because it would kind of negate the entire Western medicine philosophy. But what Sheldrick brought forward is that the field can be written into prospectively and not just read from retrospectively. So we can influence that field. So what that means in layman's terms, if morphic resonance works because past organized systems influence present ones through the field, then a sufficiently coherent, a sufficiently activated consciousness can also transmit a new morphic pattern. And this is what we're here doing. Creating that and transmitting that new morphic pattern into the field makes it easier for every subsequent being to access that same pattern that comes after. So when we talk about, spiritual breakthroughs, we talk about gurus and masters. They mastered this. The ancients knew that the morphogenetic field was the medicine. This is how the ancients worked. And we are just kind of now remembering in our medicine field that this is the first layer, is the morphogenetic field. The biofield is another part of this. And so there's different opinions on what the biofield is. Sheldrick feels like the biofield is another layer of the morphogenetic field. Some people say it's different, and the biofield is more of the physical structures that we would see from the body. So there's some mixture of what that really looks like as far as the biofield, but the biofield essentially is the field around us, very similar to the morphogenetic field, that carries a lot of our imbalances, it carries a lot of our intelligence, and it carries our blueprints in that field as well. And the intrinsic data field, I'm not sure if anybody here is familiar with the SE5 system or intrinsic data field analysis, but let me just go through here. So this comes from a slew of research and work in bioresonance and informational medicine. And these are particularly scientists building on the foundations of POP's biophotonic research and the broader field of bioelectromagnetics. The core concept is that every living system continuously generates, stores, and broadcasts informational fields. These are not just electromagnetic signals, but these are coherent informational patterns that govern biological regulation. These informational fields carry the organism's complete biological history, its current regulatory state, its distortions, and its actual blueprint for coherent function. So various bioresonant technologies that I work with and that a number of us work with, they work on the principle that these informational fields can be read. They all have a signature. It is like its thumbprint, each intrinsic data field is the thumbprint of that structure. And that can be a sentient or a non-sentient object. Everything carries an intrinsic data field. And so we use intrinsic data field analysis to, obviously to analyze what those fields are reading, what those signatures are reading, And we work to shift those imprints. We can rewrite, we can reprogram, and we can rework our entire field at the core level and affect every generation before us and after us in a really, really profound way. And so this is why the work is so important, and it takes us into the collective of the landscape, I feel like right now that we are all experiencing in the world. The field is attempting to have some infiltration, right? And the biophotonics are being what's the word I'm looking for? They're kind of being interfered with. We have a lot of interference on our patterns, on our signatures, on our fields. And once we embody, once we embody the coherence that we have within us, those outside fields cannot affect us as much. And we make it that much easier for the collective field to continue their healing. Every single one of us impacts the next person in their healing journey, whether we know them or not. And so this is really powerful, and it moves us into the global structure and architecture right now that we're all experiencing, and why this work is so important and imperative, and that people understand what these fields are. And it will layer us into what Lena's beautiful work does. But I would love to open this up for, any questions or any feelings, as Lena opened the container for this session and really brought the field into a coherent space. That's a prime example of working within the morphogenetic field, and really creating whatever space that we want to write for ourselves. So I'd love to know, just tapping into, as people were sitting there kind of grounding in with Lena's container, how you were feeling, anything that was coming to mind, or any thoughts that you have that, I'd love to answer any questions or dive in more. There's a lot of very detailed information. They're very deep subjects. And so we are really just skimming the
I have
surface.
a question for you.
Yes.
So I've experienced all of it, and I'm wondering, but I've just used different names, I think. I'm not sure though, but like I went into my Akashic records and rewrote them backwards and forwards during ceremony with Lena.
Mhm.
Is this the type of thing that is this the field you're discussing? Yeah.
Absolutely. The Akasha field.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a word I left out just today, but
Just
yeah,
making sure.
the
Yes. I
Akasha
was
field is, yeah, that is the power, because it is the field that carries all the records.
yes.
Uh, so absolutely we can rewrite that, and absolutely, yes.
So, Lena, essentially everything that Jeff taught us is similar, just different words, but what we're
That's right.
what we're doing. Yeah, got it.
Yeah,
Got
exactly. Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and to that point, I mean, can you all hear me okay? Okay,
Yes.
Yeah.
great. Tech is working. That's a good thing. Bringing this work together and bringing in these new terms also allows
Mm,
greater connection to the work, right? Because we're moving to the core of what it is from a
yeah.
scientific space. And so exactly. And we can
It
use
legitimizes it too, because too
that.
many people think Akasha, it's like blah, blah, like everybody would know that word, but I'm like, oh, this is what she's talking about. I knew this is the reason I was hearing this.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And so that's important, going
Mm,
back to
yes.
the global morphogenetic field and
Yes.
how we are these light frequency ripples
Mm,
emanating into the world. If I'm talking to an investor across the table who is not attuned to spiritual language, this is perfect, to use term wise. But this is the work, and I just want to thank you, Julie, because I want to dive into how do we work with ourselves, on a day-to-day basis with these fields. And as Julie was talking, I was getting the image of a pyramid and the base of it being the foundation, our bodies. A lot of times we think, oh, we're working with all of these multidimensional energy fields. We can so often forget our bodies are the vessels, the temples, the houses of all of these high vibrational energies that we're cultivating in our healing journey. And so I was getting the image of the pyramid, the foundation being the foundation, our body, the physical matter. The center of the pyramid being our human consciousness, and then the apex being our crown, our connection with these, with source, with very pure, field that we're connecting to. And so how do we tend the garden of our mind? How do we continue to work with our own human consciousness, on a day-to-day basis? Well, this is where, and for those of you who've done this work, it's essential to understand the subconscious and how the subconscious mind truly runs our life. And if we do the deeper work to go in and excavate and work with what are those fields that we've inherited, those subconscious belief systems that we've internalized, how do they operate in our life that co-creates and continues to perpetuate maladaptive patterning? Can we understand that from the belief system? So bringing subconscious into conscious awareness, how it impacts behavior, action, and life patterning, and what we're ready to truly alchemize and let go of. And we can do that in different ways. We can do that, in ceremonies, as many of you have experienced. We can do it, through embodiment work, breath work, and the cognitive, again, so bottom up, up down, top down. But we need to be working multidimensionally, right? And this is very important, from the sovereign paradigm. What does that mean? Well, from the paradigm of remembrance and liberation of who you already are. This is not something outside of you. Yes, we can utilize incredibly beautiful and powerful advanced technologies outside of us. We can get assessments. We can use the tools. We can ingest plant medicine. We can use all the tools. But ultimately, what is the work that you are doing within yourself to remember? I think of it as, if you look at an oil lamp and there's the light, a lot of times oil lamps can get all that soot, all that schmutz, as Jeff would say it, my husband, inside, and it gets foggy. And so the light has a hard time shining through the obstruction, the interference, as Julie shared. We want to polish off all of that soot so the light shines out radiantly and purely with its most potent brightness. And that's what we're doing here with our individual lights. So the soot, the obstructions, the interferences, quite honestly, I don't say this to be fear-based. We say it because we need to be warriors and understand what's going on in the universe. A lot of interference can happen, and that can be ancestral, that can be, different entities attracted to the light. It can be, soul wounds from different lifetimes. I mean, those are all their own sessions, but the interferences are multidimensional. So in order to be the brightest lights, we have to cultivate multidimensional awareness. And so I'm curious, Julie, because you've been doing this work with different clients, and we do the same work, but in different ways. It's like different access points into the same house of awakening and healing and medicine. What are some of the, most prevalent interferences that you're seeing, at this time, because it's very the potent energetic time on Earth? What are you seeing a lot with clients recently in this phase?
It's such a variety, but I would say, there's a lot of trauma healing. The mental health, the mental health side is very intense right now for a lot of people. A lot of people are really navigating who they are, what they are, what am I doing here? What is this entire fiasco happening right now? Everything's chaotic. Like I am having a hard time getting anchored in, financially, things slowing down, things kind of pausing and um people kind of being impatient or like wanting things to happen like right now, but the field isn't set for it to happen yet. So, um, and also I feel like the healing side, people want to kind of feel better like this. And it's a process, it's for me, it's 45 years plus all the generations before me that, I had to work through. And I think people are so used to popping a pill and my headache is gone type of a situation that they really are having to do the work.
Mm.
And it's that question of, well, how long is this going to take? When am I going to experience something different? Or how long do I have to do this for type of thing? And it is a lifetime. It is a lifestyle. It never stops. It never goes away. It is very layered. We all can see, we are going to be constantly bombarded energetically with attempted interferences.
Mhm.
There's so many distractions happening right now that, yeah, me and Lena joke, like we maybe put the antenna out for a second and we have to pull it back in because it's way too much to, um, you can't even focus on your own field. So that's what I'm seeing a lot of right now is a lot of trauma, people really stepping back from addiction. But I see, in doing this for the last 12 years, 12 years ago when I started working in quantum medicine, people looked at me like I had eight faces. And now it's such a beautiful awakening that's happening. The shift that I've observed happen over the last 12 years has been really profound. And we're getting into like the biohacking stuff and all that has kind of made its movement. But this is a different layer. This is not any of that. And so I think too, Lena, to your question is, there's a lot of people out there as practitioners that don't know what they're doing. And it's left a sour taste in the mouth for people that wanted to try a different avenue. And so that's the other point is to really intuitively being able to step in intuitively and find out who you should be working with, who those practitioners are, what those spaces look like that can hold a container for you to be
Mhm.
in your field. Um, but that's really, I feel like what I've been experiencing the most recently. How about
Can
for
I
you?
ask a question,
Yeah.
Julie,
Yeah.
about that?
Hmm.
So, I'm just going to paraphrase it. At the end there, did you say that so I would send, so now I have patients showing up to who are literally like, I don't losing, their entire identity in every way, they're going through dark night of the soul, like, and they don't even know what that is. And there's so much fear around what's happening in this world too. And then their egos dig in. So did I hear you say that? Then I would say, you know what? I think maybe you need to talk to Julie about what kind of practitioner or what kind of access point for this for you is going to work best.
Yeah, I work with different systems and I also am very intuitive. So, I can kind of check in with a client and say, this is how I would navigate where you should start.
Mm.
And I have some technologies for practitioners to use to be able to do that, like the Quantum Vault, which we'll get into probably a little later. But um, yeah, I feel like there are,
Is that what your role, are you are you practicing as their therapist? No, right? But kind
yeah,
of?
I'm not a therapist, but I'm a conduit for the healing work.
Yes.
And so just providing that space. And I think Pat might be here on the call somewhere. I've worked with Pat and she's experienced the vault and I'm not sure if she's still on the call here, but
She's
she
here.
said something to me. Are you
Hi.
here, Pat? Oh, sorry. Is she here?
Yeah, she's.
She's
Mhm.
there. Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, Pat, I don't know if you want to share just really briefly, but I know you've messaged me a couple times with just like every time you read some of your recalibration reports, there's like another layer that activates for you. And I feel like that happens with any of the clients that we're going to be working with. Um, there's going to be something that we're going to say, or they're going to be something that they're going to read, and it's going to activate that first layer, which is going to allow us to keep going. There are going to be some clients that we work with that we cannot work with, because they're just not ready. They want to be ready. And
Yes, okay, that's what I was.
somebody,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
as people in the
If
field,
they hang, if they, like you said, it's hard work,
Yeah.
and you're gonna hear, yeah. I feel like understanding the subconscious and the egoic mind is the first, is like the most important thing that I do now differently. Because otherwise, they're just, why do I keep sabotaging myself over and over and over again?
yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
But I like what you said about, I understand what you said, I think, about like, it's once your eyes are open, they're open. So if they get it in their first reading, they're going to, whether they like it or not, continue on until they, you know, either keep going or don't, I guess. But I'm just quite, you have different, like, I don't guess I understand yet what it means when you say you have different technologies for therapists and this and that, and we're going to learn that along the way. But you would work with somebody who is like, how would someone find you, for example?
Yeah, so I have a website,
Okay.
a Quantium, and then the Quantium Vault, and we'll share this at the end too. Lena
Okay.
and I both will.
Okay.
But yeah, and something Lena and I have also talked about is, when we work with our clients and they go through these big shifts, because I always tell people, like, once you step in here,
Yeah.
nothing is ever the same again. Nothing will ever be the same again. And they have to be prepared for what that looks like, from relationships,
Right.
family dynamics, to
Oh,
anything, and they have to be willing to really go all in, because they will feel the shift, and they will feel the imbalance, because maybe the wife has gone through certain healing components, and maybe the husband has not, or the partner has not. She's going to be in a different trajectory now, and she's going to feel the imbalance of that. Now, if they do it as a family, you have a whole different coherent field now, right? We're touching back into the family field. So I
mm.
have a lot of clients I work with where it's just the one person comes through, and then they're like my whole life is disrupted, because now I don't see eye to eye with my
I
partner
understand.
anymore.
Yeah, I understand.
And so we have to kind of
Yeah.
pull that in,
Yeah.
and we start to work with the
From
family,
that.
from that point. But there are going to be some that we just cannot work with
Yep.
right at this moment.
And then sometime, I mean, sometimes you don't know, until you begin working with
Yeah.
people, the capacity to hold this work. When I say this work, it is the work that Julie does, that I do. It's that many of you do. It's going into truly being dedicated and devoted to reprogramming the maladaptive patterning in your field. And what will that do? When you do that and you create more coherence, the relationships, this is just an example based on codependency, the siphoning type of relationships, the trauma, bonding or wound bonding, those are going to fall away. Partnerships may fall away, you know, businesses may fall away. I mean, there's this willingness to, I mean, this is key, the willingness for, like Julie said, everything to change. If you are choosing the path, we can call it the path of your highest timeline, the path of your greatest vitality, of your most sovereign, authentic embodiment. And it sounds really good. Sounds really sexy to think about, I want to have a sovereign embodiment. Well, think again. The path is not, it's not easy. It is, and that's why we say, I work a lot with the warrior archetype and different divine feminine archetypes, especially when I work with women, because we need the whole gang and, up and ready and able to step in this very adaptable and resilient way. Emotional or capacity for emotional regulation, that embodied coherence, is one of the greatest superpowers that we can cultivate at this time. In the face of great disruption, whether that disruption is in your own life or when we are observing the external world which has a lot of chaos and disruption, can we experience coherence in our nervous system? Can we be anchored in our knowing that we are here on earth at this time, in this moment, for reasons that are connected to our soul stream's blueprint of what we're meant to share? And it's the rigorous dedication to cultivating coherence in the face of challenge, emotional resilience, healthy relationship with discomfort. So you're not running back into the illusion of comfort constantly. These are all the, I would call, human-based emotional, psychological skills needed in order to have the strength and resilience to shift your own morphogenetic field, and then thus the morphogenetic field of the world. So it's micro to macro, okay? Each cell, in your body, each time you take a deep breath and each time you release a fear-based thought and you take an action based on your truth and your knowing and coherence, you're activating that. You're easing and cultivating that morphogenetic field from a coherent space. So it's this is why it's important, and to Julie's point, the technology space, the spiritual space, plant medicine space, all of these, it's been very good overall for them to be growing and in the forefront, and also with greater awareness and engagement with those fields, there also is more interference and we'll call it sifting through that's needed, sifting through. So the question becomes whether you're choosing a practitioner or choosing a technology, is, the quality, obviously, of the technology, and that's Julie's expertise, but especially the practitioner or the, center where you're going. Is the paradigm sovereign? Are they perpetuating and cultivating sovereignty? Meaning, are they giving you your power back and just helping through the tools and the programs to remind you who you already are, versus, creating, operating from the old paradigm of extraction? Oh, you need this technology in order to be in your fullest self, your most vital self. So there's, as human consciousness evolves, we need to be so discerning about, what is extraction? How does that feel energetically, so we can tune into it? And even in this moment, I invite all of us to think about a time where maybe we're engaging with a friend or someone or a situation in our life where we were perhaps giving more than when we were receiving, or there was an imbalance. What does that energy feel like? Because the more acutely attuned we are to the energetic resonance of imbalance and siphoning extraction, the more we can shift and pivot from those situations, relationships, to uphold the coherence of our being, and thus share that morphogenetic field with the world, right? As the ripple. And so this is why we consistently want to talk about coherence. It's the oscillation. It's not about always staying in coherence. So for example, and for those of you who we've been in ceremony together, we purposely activate. When we're activating purposefully, it can be very intense, a lot of energy moving, a lot shifting, energetically in the neural pathways. And then we want to move from that activated state into coherence as we're integrating what we've received. So it's the contrast that provides the wisdom. It's pushing the kind of the edge of discomfort in order to create more resilience. But ultimately, we want to come back home to embodied coherence as our baseline, but systematically push the boundary to increase our healing, our awakening, and our overall resilience capacity. So anyhow, that was coming through as you were talking, Julie, and I think for this work, that sovereignty piece, I know that's one of one of the big common denominators that we consistently connect on. Because when you look out there, there's a wild, wild west of different, you know, different modalities, technologies, and so yeah, I'm curious how, because I love, to hear how others, feel and share that definition of sovereignty and what that is. What would you say in your words? Oh, Julie. Sorry, anyone, but
Oh,
no.
me. Oh, I thought, yeah, I was gonna open that up for anybody just to share.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, I would love to hear, um, if anybody wants to share.
Sovereignty.
Yeah.
It's knowing that you are awake and acting with intention and that you're not being your unconscious mind
oh,
and
your
your
sound.
subconscious is not. Oh, you can hear. Can you hear me now?
Okay, yeah.
Can you hear?
Yeah.
To me, it's just knowing that you are awake and you are acting every moment with intention and you are vigilant and you are conscious and intention. You are acting with intention as long as it's your, coming from that space and place, you are going to be that makes me feel sovereign. I'm truly for the first time understanding my dynamics and acting. I've kind of gone through stuff though, so I think it could mean so many different things for so many different people. For me right now, it means like knowing I do the work, knowing I've done the work, knowing my power and what I can do from the suffering and those really uncomfortable places and spaces. And I did it. I will always do it. Like you said, Julie, I think like it's a shock to people I think people think like to awaken up means like it's a switch and they're going to feel amazing afterwards and it's going to be so good forever. And I just flip the switch. So I'm good. They don't understand that it is a lifestyle, like you said earlier, Julian. You have to commit to it. And through that process, you can understand the liberated heart and that you are a truly sovereign being. That's what it means to me.
Beautiful. Yeah. Like lifelong sovereign journey. Anyone
Hmm.
else want to share their
I'd
experience?
like to say something about that. Um, what I have learned over the years is that you make these jumps and leaps moment by moment. And sometimes, many times throughout the day, I could say, yes, I'm a sovereign being, but yet my grandchildren or animals or children show up and I'm still pulled into helping them with who they are and what they need. And sometimes that can't be exactly what I need because I'm helping them grow and learn too. So it's like it's continually changing.
But that's your
So,
intention, though, right? So, like, as long as that's
no,
your intention to help your grandchildren in that moment,
it isn't an intention.
no, you weren't. Mm.
It's not a conscious intention. Maybe it is subconscious. I don't know. It's that if a grandchild comes up crying to me about a problem, I don't look at them and say, "Oh, I'm in the middle of this. I can't help you right now. I'm being my own sovereign being. I've got this job to do." No, I jump in and take care of them because they're in need at that time. Or
Yeah,
if my cat
yeah.
throws up on the floor, I jump in and I clean up a cat mess. You know, it's
Yes,
it's that you it's that we're shifting all the time.
yes. But then if I'm cleaning up the cat poop with intention, then I'm being, then I'm following I'm not sleepwalking through it. I'm doing it. I'm recognizing the moment. I'm recognizing I have to shift. Absolutely. Of course, like I can't do what I want a lot of the times. I have kids and everything
Right.
else too. But I think I go into it with a different shift, which is it's my intention now. And that's my presence and my awareness and my consciousness. So I am capable of being sovereign in terms of my field and my functioning. Then I'm not going into it like, ugh. I don't like
Right.
I will stop and clear myself and it's taken practice, but I can just kind of shift into that and like, okay, this is what I'm doing now. Cool, let's do it then. I'll be the best cat cleaner ever.
I guess I don't even think of it in those terms.
Yeah, they're different words. I understand. Yeah.
I walk through a state of being as neutral as possible.
Yeah.
Without overreacting. Like, okay, this job needs done, so this is what I'm doing.
We're saying similar things. I surrender to it. I'm doing it. So I'm here, I'm present, I'm intentional.
Right.
That's how I can be in charge of myself in that moment and not suffer through it.
And working with a client, I'm in a totally different space too. Then I'm going into these states of morphogenic, but that word just gets to me. I can't even pronounce it. I took matrix energetics for over 10 years, and we learned a lot about Sheldrick and a lot about all the stuff that we're talking about and how to be in that field quickly and easily, even without having to intend to. We just breathe and we're in that field.
Yeah, and I've never learned any of that. I never even heard the morphogenetic term until now, but my language is different than your language, but I think we're saying, that's what I was saying before about the Akashic records, as Julie was explaining. I never heard those terms at all. I signed up 15 minutes ago. I'm like, yeah, I want to learn about this. And I can feel the parallels, I guess.
Right. And I've been in this field for so many years and taken so many of these classes. It's like I started out with being a massage therapist and then including in all these other fields like Reiki, Reiki master teacher, all that stuff. And then I realized that isn't exactly what I'm doing. So I take another class, just trying to find words for what it is I'm doing.
Stephanie, you can speak to that now too, right?
Yeah, many, many, many years of classes and clients and various things going on the planet and off the planet.
Yeah. And so, and that's, I mean, this is, we're all like guided in our own ways, right? And we're guided into different trainings, languages, like we're saying the same thing with different words. And so I really, I want to emphasize, because especially in the West, we're so programmed to attach to knowledge. And knowledge is really good. Knowledge is really important. But we privilege content and knowledge over embodiment and spaciousness. Now, maybe not us, or maybe not, many of us on this call, but in terms of a culture. So I'm particularly very interested in just this question. I don't have all the answers, but I ask it frequently. As beings of light, as conscious, I think there's all women on this call, but we didn't, it wasn't just, this is not just for women. How do we shift culture? How do we shift culture through, the morphogenetic field and our own actions, our own creations in the world? I truly believe that creating this balance, between the masculine and feminine energies, so which means between the mind and the heart. So we're creating resonance and coherence between the heart mind. So even in this moment, there's many things we all could share and say, and we're in this co-creation together. And also there's an equal beauty, right, in sitting in the spaciousness and silence together to feel experientially the field. So even in this pause, so just pausing here for 10 seconds. Noticing the heart softening, right? When we speak, can we drop the mental energy into the back of the heart and speak from the heart, from this embodied place? And that's creating coherence in the field. That's creating, balance and the conditions for healing, of psycho-emotional conditions, of diseases, but it begins, in the field, as Julie was teaching and sharing with us. But until we embody it, it's just a concept, and this is why, that micro to macro, it always begins with us. And here, we're talking about human consciousness in terms of universal consciousness, the field where all arises. It's the energy that animates, right? When we see matter, like our bodies or animals, it's the energy that animates the aliveness. And we have a powerful role in the universal field, in the shift that Julie was sharing, and we, through our energy and intention, through organizing intelligence, through our intention and action, we can create matter that is regenerative through communities, through our businesses, through how we structure our families. We know that, like, that's in our DNA. And so I'm pausing here and kind of bringing it back to our bodies so we can remember our innate capacity that's so far beyond the mind and words. It is a knowing that we can just scratch the surface in terms of describing in words. And that's why, more and more women are coming together to do this work, to create together. If Julie and I hadn't gone through our respective dark nights of the soul, we wouldn't be in the place where we were, open enough and able to really merge medicines, because our humanness would get in the way. Because especially with the collective feminine consciousness, there's been a lot of interference that we've inherited, meaning competition, separation, isolation. And we're here, and I was speaking with one of my clients yesterday, because we're done compartmentalizing. We're done compartmentalizing. It's the disintegration of the walls between us. Because we can think of each of us, we're an evolving, healthy, cell, or universe rather, our own, and we're combining universes in order to amplify. So, I'm curious, from a morphogenetic field lens, Julie, I know you would say that, but maybe in different words. How would you kind of describe, or what's coming through for you?
I mean, I'm just feeling called to share. I want to touch back on the conversation I think Jennifer and Pat were having, and because it's a powerful conversation, and it touches on what you're talking about right now, Lena, is that we all have life. I'm a single mother. I have 2 teenage kids, 24/7, 365. And so, I can be in my field, and I have my field with my children, but their energies are obviously different. And as maybe Pat sharing, you might have a grandchild or a child that's upset. The world ended today because of something small that happened, and being able to step into that field with your field, being able to kind of step in and emanate your light and kind of bring some calm and peace and say, and I do this with my own children. If they come home from a bad day or something, let's sit down and talk about why you're feeling this, what made you feel this way, and, kind of basic therapy points, but, just to give them that doorway so that they know that they can express in other ways. And then being able to come back into our independent field, for Pat, like being able to come back into the field after you've been dealing with grandchildren who are crying and have certain things going on, and being able to come back in and keep that field back in its coherence, back into its state. And we have that power to form that. But just being mindful of we all have that power to do that, and life absolutely happens every day. So it's not realistic to say we can just go about in a fully intentional thing that everything's going to go the way that we plan, because it usually does not. And we have to be able to roll with that. And so that's just coming to my mind to share when we talk about the overall field and that lens, and looking out, because when we can keep our field pretty coherent, next to the others that can keep their field pretty coherent, this is that regenerative blueprint that we're bringing forward with each other. And it takes each of us with each other to be the power that we are, bringing forward. And we're making it that much easier for our kids and our grandkids, and their generations that follow, to be able to step into their field much quicker and much easier. And this is the New Earth template. This is the New Earth architecture that, that we're bringing forward. And so we're learning, we're navigating, like, how do I stay in this field? How do I, and it's a practice, and the more that we sit with it and the more that we're mindful and conscious of that, it's going to flow that much quicker and easier for us. So, yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Steph?
I just wanted to add a little bit to that. Also speaking from a perspective of jumping from being sovereign kind of back into our old conditioning paradigms. It's like, how do you stay sovereign? But when you do, I work with a lot of mothers. I'm a physical fitness trainer, and we've incorporated and kind of have found our gifts within that space, which you might not think that those go together, but we have found where it does intersect, and it's opened up like a whole new world for us. So instead of dipping to the level of where our children expect us to be for them, it's holding that sovereignty and modeling the sovereignty for them, so that they can also learn that there is a different way to respond to things, And I think that that's what I practice on a daily basis. My son is in the military, and I started working with Lena just as he had left for the military. And so when he comes to me with issues, concerns, uncertainty, he's feeling me express myself in a very different way than when he left. And he almost jumps on me like I'm going to respond to him in the old ways that I used to respond to him. And then he sees I'm calm, I'm pausing, I'm in his morphogenetic field, and I'm feeling him, and he's feeling me, but it's so it's so unfamiliar to him, the way I'm behaving, that he automatically thinks I'm going to respond in a certain way. And I sit back and I say, hey, hey, this is okay. It's all good. I'm listening to you. I have no judgment on this. I don't think anything about it. I'm trying to give you the best advice, or at least support, that I can possibly give you. And so as little as we get to talk, it's starting to come along for him that, there is a different way to handle these situations. And I'm seeing my mother handle them in way different ways than I saw her handle them when I was younger, which in turn, I think, is changing his morphogenetic field into seeing a different way to be able to handle situations as well. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. That's embodied lived experience, of it. I mean, that's how we learn, especially in hearing the experience of others, like in the living field. How does it arise in the living field between family members, as Pat was sharing, between children, spouses? So beautiful.
I
Thank
I
you.
think also you mentioned, how do we change culturally? I think one of the biggest things for me when I first started working with medicine was that I had difficulty differentiating between essence and actually what does that mean, essence? And for me, being um, conscious, being aware of surroundings, being human, and understanding that being human is part of the essence, and essence and humanness go together. And for me, sometimes I've learned to be comfortable staying in essence with my humanness to the point where I can actually differentiate between the two, if that makes any sense. That when the flow of going in and out of my essence, ego essence is actually comfortable to the point where I can get deeper into either of those wavelengths, if that makes any sense to anybody, because it makes sense to me. And that usually is the case, never makes sense to anybody else but me. And that's okay.
This is,
Yeah, I
yeah,
understand, you know, trying to actually understand what energy is and feeling energy and understanding the difference in energies and then combining them, or not necessarily combining them, but allowing them to meld and blend without fear of either being sucked into something that's negative or brought so high into something that's positive that you lose your sense of balance. To be able to blend the both of them has actually been an objective of mine since I first started using medicine, because I understood being with people and feeling their energy and feeling when their energy affects me. If it may be, for instance, it may agitate me or it may put me in a different place than I'm used to being able to shield that, block that, not completely, but allow it to come into my space without fear, and then to be able to work with that and interact with somebody, a client, my children, anybody, all humans. Being in the field that I am, being in personal training, I am constantly interacting with people's emotions, their fears, their their discoveries, and their and the things that they find out about their own energy and their own power and their own self when they've accomplished things, and blending all of that together to be able to support them there has been quite a journey. And the thing that gives me the greatest pleasure is when I can feel and sense the connection between the two of us after a session. Let's say, for instance, I'm going to use it for a personal training session, and their change toward me and mine toward them when we have energetically connected and we have understood without the verbiage that a lot of psychoanalysis takes place during that course. And sometimes the trying to explain what I'm feeling about them and what they're feeling about me gets a little bit lost, because how do you describe energy? How do you describe a feeling that, unless you're connected with that, how do you explain that to somebody else?
mhm, right. Well, you're doing it now.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to develop some means of communication while I'm in different planes and on different levels. Um,
And that's it, Kathy. I mean, there's no coincidence that you and Steph, you both are in um, fitness, a physical
yes,
industry, with the level of work that you've done and the channels that you are, because a part of your blueprint is to do exactly that, to find the language. Because without, and this is what I mean around the embodiment and integration piece, without the felt sense of the energy in the body and some kind of language to share it, then it's either an experience we're not really that conscious of, or it's a concept, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Without the embodiment.
Yes. Bringing the concept to embodiment
Right.
so that it's whole.
Yeah, it's
It's
whole.
whole.
It's the whole pyramid.
Yes. It's the whole thing. Yes.
Yeah.
And then I feel sovereign.
Yeah, yeah.
And it takes us
Back
back.
to sovereignty.
It takes
Always
us back too to the morphic resonance,
it.
Kathy, as you were talking about, the fields that you work with, and our body talks to us. And the more that we are embodied, the more we hear what our body is saying. So, for me, in working in this field for the last 12 years, I may come up to certain locations of land, a certain person, and my body will immediately tell me that this is not an energy field to connect to. And I've become very sovereign in how I work with clients because, I can probably count on one hand clients that I've decided not to work with, or spaces that I've been that I need to leave like right now because I will feel it in my field that it is very disruptive, and it's an interference. And I've had to let a couple clients go too because the morphic resonance was not there, and it became a siphon. It became something that was not enjoyable for the practitioner. And if we as the conduits aren't feeling that resonance, we can't complete our work.
Yeah.
It's just not going to
And
happen.
that goes for also incorporating people into your life. Right now, we're dealing with peptides and we're dealing with somebody who does not resonate. Lovely. She's a nurse, lovely, but absolutely does not resonate on the same plane that we are. Uh, and having now to have a dialogue with her as to how we're going to function together in a business is what we're actually going to be, and Stephanie will be discussing 4 o'clock this afternoon when she gets off, when we get off this call, and she calls Heather, the nurse that we're speaking with. How are we going to make each other understand where we're vibrating, what level we're vibrating at, or what strain we're vibrating at, so that we can speak freely, speak sovereignly, and speak in a manner, in a business manner, where there's really no judgment, but just a matter of what works all around for the whole. To be able to do that and to integrate that conversation, that dialogue with human beings in general, but particularly in business, where you're not coming up against somebody's ego, or someone's coming up against your ego, or you're not allowing your ego to come into play, because that's real easy. Well, what makes her think that what she's offering is better than what we're offering, or is worth more money, quote unquote, than what we're offering? To be able to have that dialogue and to be able to settle into something where you maintain your sovereignty, knowing that this far and no further. This is as much as I'm beginning. As an individual, I'm willing to. I'm going to put my barrier over here. This is as far as it's going to go, and then possibly be able to judge that other person's barrier, and then either soften to allow more or less to come in. Is quite a juggle, is quite a balance,
It's
and to balance that way.
it's just pertaining to this
Brought it
situation.
up because it makes
It's
sense.
like it's like going in with your inspired action, and you're taking every step no matter how much time it takes, no matter how much money it's costing you on your side to bring the creation forward, but the other person is still itemizing a bill and keeping tallies. So it's like completely unaligned. It's just like, no, but I'm telling you, I'm going to do anything possible.
But maybe it is unaligned stuff
It is unaligned.
with
It is
her.
a lot right now. It is online
But
because
how do
she
you
does
make
not have the verbiage or the connection
I
to
know.
the flow or
You know
source.
what you need
Understand how
though.
it's
So
working.
how
Yeah.
much, like you can only teach her like in this moment. So like
Or I can
maybe
just
it's
lead
not
with
her.
my sovereignty, and then if I say, and if she can't understand it, then I'll just
Yeah.
say, well, maybe this is not as good of
not a
a
right fit?
collaboration as we thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
We can be on our way because nothing's
Yeah.
happening.
And
And
that's
it's a position that can be filled by anyone, really. So
right.
it's.
That's a great real life example of coherence or lack of coherence. We can't force someone into a different frequency. I know we all have tried. We've all tried. We've all been there, right? I see nodding heads. Yes, yes.
Mhm.
But now as we're attuning ourselves to be sensitive beacons and instruments of frequency, we can navigate these types of conversations with sovereignty and with as much non-attachment as possible, in order to move through the world in devotion to coherence, because that's what's going to support, for example, Stephanie, Kathy, your mission and your work most greatly. So yeah, beautiful real life example. So I know we have just about, God, goodness, 5 minutes left or so. Are there any other questions? We could probably take one more from anyone else.
Well, a really quick question is, do you have any resources that you would suggest, Julie? Because again, we're living and we're experiencing and we're on that same length, but we have a different vocab right now.
Sure.
I want to learn
Yeah.
about it. Yeah.
We're gonna
Yeah.
be we'll
Yeah.
we'll send, oh, sorry, Julie.
No, go ahead, Lena.
No, you go ahead. We're like, no, you go ahead.
There you go.
All the feminine energy.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll be sending a follow-up email, Jen, with all the links and for everyone who signed up for the session, so you can read more, explore more about the different resources. And in future sessions, I know we just have a few minutes now, Julie, but we'll go into, the different technologies and different forms of work.
And
Yeah.
Lena,
Yeah.
we have worked with the vault system, Mom and I, correct? So we have experience with that. Yeah, and I tried to explain it to Jen and that didn't work.
That's a whole thing to explain.
I could feel it though.
I'm like,
I
I don't
could
even
feel
know what
it
I'm talking
though.
about.
So yeah,
I don't know what I'm talking about, but
But
I know we're
somehow
creating a whole new
I
business
felt
model
it.
after
Yes.
So exactly. So Stephanie and Kathy, and we can talk more about, we'll talk more about the intersection, but Stephanie and Kathy went through one of my programs that included deep inner work, mentorship work alongside quantum vault scans. So it was exactly the intersection that we're working with now in this moment, in this session. So yeah, beautiful. And we'll talk more about that. Julie, is there anything you want to share? Closing here.
Um, I mean, I'm just truly grateful. It's really a blessing to sit and listen to each of you. I'm probably speaking for both of us, but yeah, just really honored and grateful because this is ancient medicine. This is the beginning of medicine, and we're bringing it back. We're rebirthing this, and it's taking all of us to be able to do that. And I do see the feminine energies really stepping forward. And I'll tell you, I've had a lot of male clients starting to come in, and I find it very interesting because, and not always, but a lot of times the feminine energy, like they have some things that they know that they want to work on. They might not know the exact path, but these are kind of the containers. And I'm finding with the masculine that they're kind of like, just tell me what I need to do. Just help me get to the level so that I even know what you're talking about, type of thing. And I trust you, I trust you to flow the way that you want to flow, but like they know that they are feeling like they want to shift. And this is probably a global feeling, but I'm seeing the difference between the masculine and the feminine energies. The feminine are kind of leading the pioneering trails, and it's spreading in the field. It's spreading in the field, and the masculine energies are feeling it, and they're looking for that outlet as well. So it's really beautiful to see all the energies here, and I'm really excited to keep growing this field. Each of you ladies, I'm sure, are doing really powerful work. I know Pat and Lucy here. I know, you're both doing very powerful work, and it sounds like ladies that have been working with Lena, and just if you're just joining us, just really grateful for all of you being here. And I'll share a little bit. So the Quantum Vault, I think most of you may have experienced some of that. That is live now at quantumvault.com. So you can actually go in and do your own scans anytime that you want. We will dive more into what that looks like and some of the different technologies, and of course, what Lena works with and how we're intersecting all these together. But I do have a website at quantium.org. That's QUANTIOM as the website. And like I said, the Quantum Vault. You'll see some of the advanced technologies on the Quantium website, the quantium.org website under IP Tech. So you can kind of see some of those technologies that we'll be diving into over the next session series. And if you ladies have any feedback, anything that you would, one thing that you're taking away from this that you would really like to learn more about in these next sessions, just something that's popping into your, into your field. Like, I really want to dive more into this. We would love to hear what that is. And yes, we will provide a number of resources here over the next 2 weeks before our next session, so that you guys can really do some reading and deep diving on, some of these fields and some of these terms, so they feel more comfortable.
Beautiful.
About
Thank
you,
you all.
Lena. Yeah.
Welcome and for being with us. Our next session, so this is a bi-weekly 7-session series. The next session is 2 weeks from today on the 24th of April, same time. So 1 to 2:30 p.m. Eastern. And yeah, to everything Julie said, incredibly grateful for your presence. And again, it's a co-created field. So as we're moving through together, we're weaving together and creating that resonance and shift in the greater field of humanity together. So that's not a small intention or task. So sending you all so much love, and have a beautiful weekend.
Lena, will you share your website just for the clients that that are here that may not have worked with you?
Yes. It's lenafranklin.com, Lena, franklin.com. That's the LF Global website, Advisory House website. It shares different forms of work that I'm offering. And yeah, we can put more about the different access points if you want to go deeper to the technologies or the individual group work on my side. We'll put that in the follow-up email. And feel free to reach out to us. I know both Julie and I we're just really excited, to share this work and to be a part, whatever part we have to perpetuate and expand this really new era of medicine, which is, this quantum field medicine from the sovereign lens. So yeah, send us any questions. We look forward to seeing you hopefully in 2 weeks, and have a beautiful weekend.
Same to you. Same to everyone.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
Lots
Thank
of
you.
love.
Bye.
Bye, ladies.